Hi everyone, this is Connor Downey, and you are listening to the Vitalis Podcast.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Vitalis Podcast. I am your host, Connor Downey. I am super excited to bring a new episode. It's been a long time. It's been probably about 9 months or so. And so I definitely feel like it's time to have the opportunity to speak and kind of give you all an update on what happened. So this is definitely a comeback episode on where I've been the last 9 months, what's kind of going on, and hopefully bring some encouragement and a little bit of hopefully a little bit of knowledge or maybe some wisdom to everybody out there. Unlike how I have traditionally recorded these, I do not have a script or a real plan here. Really, I just wanted to come back and kind of speak to life, speak to the last 9 months. And I think it would have been improper for me just to come back after that long and just continue to push out new content. So what happened, right? Where have I been and what's been going on? So the last episode that I posted, I believe, was back in May, so summer of 2025. It is now March, end of March of 2026. So it's definitely been several months. Last year was crazy. When I was doing this podcast and I was really trying to push out more and more content, I just started realizing that I was just, I wasn't happy. I wasn't in the best spot. Life was just throwing me curveballs from every possible angle. And things got really hard. Things got really hectic. And in that, I was trying to figure out what is my next step, right? What am I supposed to be doing? And I think at that point in my life, my wife and I we were actually planning to get married. So we ended up getting married in October of last year. So we were planning the wedding. The company that I was working with at the time, I was filling 2 different positions. And so alongside recording this podcast and doing consulting and everything else, kind of with my other businesses, I was also the assistant EMS director for the Department of Defense here in Colorado. So on several different bases. And then I was also a senior project manager. And so I was working for a really prominent health and wellness and IV brand, and taking up the position of a senior project manager. And we were doing incredible work. Things were really busy. But I was caught in this cycle of not wondering where I was supposed to be going and wondering, is this life? Is this kind of, where am I going to find the breathing room? And I think so many of us, right? Like we sacrifice a lot of our goals because we have fear, we have anxiety, or we're wondering like, okay, how am I going to make ends meet? And I think a lot of times we negotiate with ourselves instead of making the full plunge into what it is that we want to do. Oftentimes we negotiate, right? We say, okay, well, I'm going to take this job, or I'm going to make more money over here, and that's going to give me more time. And that's really what I was trying to do. Is I was trying to do everything at once, and I was just unfulfilled, unhappy. I was enjoying a lot of things that I was doing, but I just felt like I just didn't have a lot of time in my life in the ways that I really wanted it to. And I realized that I was starting to just have a kind of over competing in priorities, right? I just wasn't able to really produce the work that I really wanted to do. And I really started feeling called in other areas. And at that time, I was really trying to set boundaries with work. I was trying to, put up some kind of a barrier that was allowing me more time and more peace, and just the ability to focus on the things that I really felt called to do and what I was really trying to step into. And it was really difficult. I mean, it was really hard. There was just, I feel like maybe you've been in this position too, but at that time I was setting boundaries and I was trying to prioritize, but it was tons of work, right? And I'm definitely the kind of person that likes to say yes. I have a hard time saying no. I get a lot of satisfaction in my work. And so I always like taking on new projects or, trying to overcome new hurdles or new challenges. And to my detriment, I really started allowing that to take the place of some of the other things in my life that really mattered. And I kind of hit like a crossroads where actually um, the Department of Defense and the contract that I was working with really wanted me to step into the full-time EMS director for all the bases out there, and really creating a lot of incredible partnerships. And we were doing awesome things. And I was kind of at a crossroads of like, man, I have the opportunity to kind of like cut down to one work. And in that, I was really committed to exploring this and letting the other organization that I was working with go. And I can remember bringing them an offer, the IV and health and wellness company that I was working with, and I said, "Hey, I really have to step out of this position. I'm going to be stepping into other full time position. There's just no way. Even now, I'm struggling to keep up with all the things that I want to do." And I really need to make more space, right? I need to give myself the ability to focus on one line of work. It's just when you start piling in too many things, you just become less and less effective, and you start noticing that like that ability to switch your brain between task to task becomes a little bit harder and harder to do. And so, especially when you're filling such large roles, right? There's so many things you have to try and keep in line. And that's on top of me having to, already know how to work and function as a paramedic and remember all of our protocols and practicing medicine. And then on top of that, everything that I was doing with the podcast and whatnot at the time. And so I hit this point where I was bringing them an offer, and it was right at the time where there was a lot of other things that were going on inside the organization. There was a lot of like restructuring. There was a lot of people that were leaving the organization for their own personal reasons and for others. And so it kind of just came at a pivotal moment, I would say, where I was in a really strong negotiating position with this company, and told them what I needed and really stuck to my guns. And I can remember the one of the consultants that we were working with at the time was like, "Hey, there's blood in the streets, right? Now's the time to buy real estate, in a sense." And so really stuck to my guns on, "Hey, this is what I need financially. This is what I need if I were to stay." And sometimes that's really hard, right? Sometimes I think you have to wait for the right position, right? You have to really develop yourself and your character and who you are as a person. Maybe you have to get some accolades. More than anything, you really have to be able to, attain some achievements and really become valuable to the organizations that you're with. And so I really did that. I was with this organization from the very beginning, from once they decided to start up to, them being well over 200 locations deep, and really helped scale this organization from the ground up. Created all of the training, created all of the telehealth platforms, and the network of nurse practitioners and physicians that we were working with. Created really a robust education platform and training academy, and then on top of that, all the project rollouts that we really had, from peptides to different IV infusions to all sorts of other things, and so including bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. So there was a lot of subject matter expertise that I was able to bring to the table, and I was able to negotiate a really strong position with this company when I really took up kind of just a full-time senior management position. So they came back, they're willing to let me step into that. So I decided to step out of my position as the assistant EMS director, turn down the position as the full-time EMS director for the DoD, and really took a step back. And I was still working as a paramedic on the side every once in a while, just filling in shifts and keeping my skills up, staying proficient. It gave me the opportunity to kind of step away. But what I continued to realize is I was doing this in a sense, basically telling myself, this is going to give me more opportunity. This is going to give me the opportunity to do more with my life, more with my career. It's going to give me the opportunity more than anything. The whole reason I kind of stepped into that was, it's going to give me the ability to kind of free up more time for my businesses and for podcasting and stuff like that, and really step back into it. And I think at the time too, I think I was just really trying to balance everything. And what you don't really realize is that I think so many times you find your identity in the work that you're doing, and you really make that everything that you're pursuing, right? Is your work. It is what you find valuable. It's where you find your accomplishments. It's where you find whatever it is. And so I was trying to get more and more away from that, right? I think for so long, I really realized, like, who am I, right? And what legacy am I leaving behind? And so much of what I was doing was tied to these other organizations, these companies that I really helped build. And a lot of times organizations will keep you in a position that keeps you satisfied, right? So many times we see that we want to grow, we want to progress. And if you're really valuable, they're going to give you just enough to keep you happy and keep you fed. Not, they don't want to give you too little to where you're looking and you're trying to leave. They don't want to give you too much, right, to where they're overextending themselves. And so oftentimes it's this balance with so many companies. And if you're too valuable, a lot of times they want to obstruct the other things that you want to do and the other things you want to pursue. And that was early on in my life, and not things I really had to deal with now. But I think so many of us realize that, like, when we're trying to forge our own path and carve our own way, a lot of times you have to be willing to stand up for the things that you believe in, and you have to be willing to take those risks and understand that sometimes other people are going to try and get in your way, or if you're too valuable to them, they don't want you to leave, and they're going to kind of try and interrupt the things that you're doing. But nevertheless, I continued, obviously, as a senior project manager with the company. And then there was a pivotal point where the organization was really hurting on the clinical side, and they needed somebody to take up the role as the director of clinical operations. And I was very familiar with that role, very familiar with everything that I've really done for the organization and the company leading up to that point. And so I was really willing to step into it. It came at a point where they really needed somebody to get the department and get our organization in a very, very healthy spot. And so they promoted me into that position. And at that point in time too, I think that I was really just starting to get things ironed out back in my life. I was really starting to get organized and produce a lot of things that I was happy with. I was in the pivotal point of coming up on my wedding. And it was really like right after I got married was when it was like, hey, we need you to step into this position. And in my mind, I was like, wow, I think sure there's a way that this is going to grow my resume. There's a way that it's going to, give me more, more experience in certain things. Not necessarily that I really needed it, but I saw it as an opportunity, I think, to have more accomplishments, right? To take on difficult tasks and be able to produce something that I was going to be really proud of. And in that, I also really negotiated, like, oh, if I take this, I'm going to set hard boundaries with my work, and I'm going to, make sure that there's certain things that that I don't take on. I'm not, you know, traveling into the office all the time. It's got to be a mainly remote position. I'm not, because it was really like an hour and a half drive commute into the office from where I was living, and certain other things, right? And a lot of those things were set in the beginning, but I started noticing the more that I was diving into this, more of those boundaries started to disappear. I was driving to the office very frequently. There was a lot of things that I was taking on that I didn't necessarily really enjoy. And it was a large amount of work. And we were very successful. We accomplished incredible things inside of the department and inside of the organization. And there was incredible wins that we were able to bring for the members of our organization across, all of those, now 230 locations or so. So really got some incredible wins, but it was not worth my peace. And so what I started noticing, as I'm sure most of you probably have noticed in your own lives or can relate to this, is that you can't serve two masters, right? It's kind of that old school understanding of like, when you have competing priorities, eventually there is a divergence where you have to choose a path that you have to go on, right? And I hit this pivotal point in my life where I started noticing that I was sowing really poor things into my life. I was sowing, I'd just been married, and I was sowing a lot of anger back into my life, and there's disruption in my peace, and I wasn't happy. And I was just, I was living Groundhog Day, right? Over and over and over again. And it was always the same things. I mean, in a way, it's job security, right? I mean, with the organization that I was working with, it was very much so that, like, okay, there's always going to be these problems, and I was very truthfully the one person that was standing at the door, keeping these people running a safe and effective business, adhering to all the clinical compliance, everything that you have to do when you run a massive, health and wellness or any type of a medical based business. And we were doing it on an enterprise level. It was not just a single location that we were worried about. We're dealing with it across all 50 states, competing regulations, different changes. So there was very truthfully a high level of expectancy to work with, a lot of attorneys and work with a lot of groups to be on the forefront of what's coming down the pipeline. And the stress was really starting to overcome in my life. And I was, we're started noticing that every department was having bandwidth issues. Every department was struggling. And I had a very green team, very green organization. And we were doing incredible work. We were really instilling a lot of good values into them, and cultivating them in the way that I needed to. But I just started noticing that I was in this cycle. And I had this recollection point in my life, where I started noticing, you know, is what I'm doing really what I want to be doing? And there's a pivotal point, not long ago, where I actually lost somebody that was close to our family to suicide. And prior to that, kind of the end of last year, just before I was about to get married, or sorry, right after I got married, my grandfather had passed away to cancer. And he was fighting a long time battle with cancer. And a lot of us didn't really know it. And he wasn't seeking treatment. He was one of those people, I think, like a lot of us that are probably on this podcast or listening to this material, maybe you don't have the insurance, maybe you don't have the funds. A lot of things are very costly, right? When it comes to especially cancer treatment. And there's a lot of money to be made, unfortunately, in oncology. And so I think a lot of people really want to do it a more successful, more healthier way that gives them a better quality of life. And so he'd been working with, kind of doing his own kind of stuff at home that he was researching, and somebody that was very healthy with eating. And then finally the cancer kind of progressed to a point where he got very sick, and he went up to the hospital, and he was having urinary issues. And really they started seeing how far the cancer had spread. At that point, and he really tried to jump into um, a very aggressive form of treatment. He was working with an incredible group that I have a lot of respect for, which is Hope for Cancer, that's out in Mexico. And a lot of incredible research, a lot of awesome things that they're doing out there. But it really made me realize that there is a point that we have to accept that our lives they are fleeting. We are here on borrowed time, and we are gifted to those people that are around us, right? We are not here permanently. We're loaned to the people that we love. And as much as I believe in the therapies that I talk about and in everything that I know can help people, um, there's still a point where somebody is not going to make it. There's still a point that we have to accept that it's not our decision, that we're not God. We're not always in control of everything, and we can't save every single person. We can't save every life. That doesn't mean you give up hope. That doesn't mean that you don't fight. We fought, and we fought very hard until the very end. And I think that there's a lot of times where you think, that maybe there's more that we could have done. Maybe there was, if we could rewind the clock and go back and we did it differently. And there's always going to be shoulda, woulda, couldas, right? What if we caught it earlier? What if we were more aggressive earlier? What if we did this earlier? What if he had gone and gotten tested or worked with somebody earlier on. There's so many things that I feel like there's a lot of things that we could go back and look at. Unfortunately, we have to realize that there is a level of accepting that we are loaned to this world. We're on borrowed time. And when our time is up, our time is up. And that's really hard, right? And I think a lot of times we, the family or the friends of so many of these people that are sick or are dying or passing away, we hold on to them. We delay the inevitable. We hold on far longer than they would have wanted to. And I saw that with my own father. Seen it with a lot of people where we typically even hold on to them even past them being ready to leave this earth and go on to the next. And I think oftentimes it makes us feel better. Oftentimes it allows us to have a sense of control that we're after, right? All we want is to be in control. And we hate not having that ability to be in control. Um, and so that was a realization that I had to come to. And that was a realization that I had to come to when I lost a person that was very close in our family to suicide. And at that point, I think I really had this realization of what am I doing? There's so much pain in this world. There's so many things that people need, right? There's things that are truly needed. And a lot of this information I feel like is truly needed. I think we see that there's so much pain, there's so much corruption, there's so much stuff that just doesn't really matter, right? That's on social media, that's on these platforms. And why are we here if not to make a difference? Why are we here if not to do something that's bigger than ourselves? And I think, um, at least as a man and so many men that I've worked with, and that I think that I've helped find their path and their journey on this life, is realizing that exact fact is that as men, we find so much identity in our work and it becomes who we are. And oftentimes we're so unhappy, right, with the work that we're doing and the job that we're doing. And we're scared to make a change, right? Because that's been who we are. That's our identity. That's what we've come to know. And it's okay to change your identity. It's okay to find, what you're truly meant to do. Things are going to change. We evolve, we develop, we learn, we find other passions. But I think so many times as men, we hold on to something because, even though it's so painful, even though it disrupts our peace, even though it makes us into somebody that we're not who we want to be, we don't quit, right? Where you don't want to give up. We're somebody that is oftentimes so tied to our work that even though it's so painful, we don't want to quit, right? We're not a quitter. We're not going to give up. We're not somebody that's going to allow things to just slip by. We want to see something finished and completed, but it will never be finished. It will never be completed. I had to learn this with the company that I worked with, is that not a single day went by when there wasn't a new problem. It was always something. There was, especially in today's world, things are ever changing, ever growing. There's never going to be a point where we don't have something that is going to keep us tied to the workplace that we're in, and from making a change that we need to make in our life. And so I had to come to terms with, I wasn't serving a purpose that I truly felt like I was called to do, something that was bigger than myself, that really benefited society any longer, right? I really felt like what I was so focused on was, how do I support this organization and this company? And I was still helping people, right? Don't get me wrong. The work that I was doing was definitely still benefiting people, changing lives. There's a lot of people that were, growing their own businesses. They've dumped their life savings and their 401ks into this, and they were, really trying to invest in this organization and be a member of our company. And so I was helping them become successful. I was helping them with their families. I was helping them with the people that were coming into their clinics and these locations and wanting help. But it wasn't to the point where I really felt like I was benefiting those around me and fulfilling what I felt like my calling really was. And then I realized that, as I've talked about in other episodes, like when you really try and find your purpose, it's an accumulation of your talents. It's an accumulation of your passions. What brings you joy? What do you feel fulfilled in doing? And then where do you feel like you're really going to make an impact, right? What is your calling? How do you want to use that? And so I truly believe that when somebody has a calling and they have a purpose and they're serving something that they're very passionate about, they're going to find fulfillment and joy, and everything's going to really align. And it's crazy when you step into your potential, when you step into your path, when you step into your calling, when you step into what's been on your heart for so long, all of these doors really start to open for you. So many things just really start to just make way. There's new relationships that get carved out. There's people that contact you that you haven't heard in a long time. There's opportunities that present themselves. It's just kind of things, just all the cloudiness and the fog, everything just kind of dissipates. And so, if there's anything that I can tell anybody is that, this life is temporary. This life is fleeting. This life is not guaranteed. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. And what are you spending your time doing? What are you sowing into your life that you will reap? And the oldest principle is that we reap what we sow. And it does not matter what it is that you're speaking of, whatever you invest into, whatever you invest your time, your talents, and your finances into is what you will be reaping. And we're supposed to be good stewards of those things, right? Like we have to be. And when you look at your time, oftentimes we're sowing our time into things that we necessarily shouldn't be, right? We're investing so much time and so much effort and energy, right? That's the other thing too. Think about the amount of energy that you're investing into something. And are you happy with where that time is going? Because you don't get your time back, right? Money can always be recouped. You can find money will return, investments or whatever, right? And there's new opportunities, there's new ways to make money. It doesn't mean you spend it all, but same thing, right? Like your time and your talents are valuable. Those are things that you're not going to get back, right? So whatever your talents are too, are those things that you do better than anybody else, right? They're the things that you have been gifted on this earth. And where are you investing those, right? Or are you investing those? Have you let those go? Is it still in your mind of like, man, I was so good at this. I was so good at playing the piano. I was so good at playing the guitar. I was so good at drawing. I was so good at speaking. I was so good at, at building, with carpentry. I was so good at whatever it was, right? Whatever your talent is, and it can be anything. Have you wasted your talents? Have you wasted them? Have you allowed them to just slip by over the years? And it's never too late. Let me tell you this. I think the biggest lie is that you should chase security, that you should abandon your talents and your gifts, that you should, look for what's safe and what's comfortable, and in exchange for whatever comes, right? I think for the longest time we're told, don't quit your job until you have another job lined up. Don't put yourself in a level of risk. Everything's risk. Life is risk. Every day we live is a risk. We don't know what's going to happen or what's going to come, right? Tomorrow is not something that is guaranteed, and we cannot live our lives in a level of comfort and safety for the rest of our lives, because then you get down the road and you're 60, 70, 80 years old and you look back and you say, what did I do with my life? What legacy have I left behind? What lives have I changed, right? And I realized that. I was realizing that for so long I was going in this circle of realizing that I needed to make a change, realizing that I wasn't living the life that I wanted to live, and investing into the people around me, right? I wanted to be a good husband, eventually a good father. I wanted to be an amazing friend. I wanted to be able to inspire people. I wanted to be a voice for those that need it, for those victims out there, right? For those people that feel hurt, that are damaged with depression or domestic violence or human trafficking, or people that are on the verge of suicide, people that feel alone, right? Sharing my own story, the things that I've gone through personally and that I've helped others overcome and go through, and making a true impact, even in people that are dealing with disease and cancer, and looking for a means of an alternative form of therapy, right? Being a voice for them, speaking to those that need it most, and understanding that they have options, that they have opportunities, that they're not alone. And the biggest thing that we realize on this earth is that we're not alone. But for so long we think we do. No matter our circumstances, we think no one else on the planet could possibly, be going through what I'm going through. Nobody could be dealing with the same thing. I dealt with that with depression for the longest time, right? So many times I think when you're when you're dealing with thoughts of suicide or depression, you're in this cycle that's just so it's just something that you don't want to get out of. It's peaceful. It's something that is seductive. It's something that you feel like, even though it's so terrible, it's known, right? It's the known, it's the comfortable, it's whatever it is. And you can just find yourself spiraling inside of there, and you feel like you're on an island and nobody could possibly know what you're going through. But that's not the truth at all. Um, and that's in every walk of life. And so, what are you sowing your time and your talents into? Right? Is it a job that you hate, a job that you don't feel aligned with, that your heart's not in? Is it something that you go in every day and you're like, why am I putting my time into this? Why am I doing this? Is it something that you're not using your talents for? Something where you feel like you could be doing something so much greater than yourself, serving a purpose so much bigger than yourself, doing things for people that really matter, that's going to make an impact, that's going to leave a legacy, that's going to change lives, right? Every single person on this planet has about the same amount of time, right? And like I said, a lot of it's unknown. And every single person has certain talents. Finances will come, right? It's our duty to steward those appropriately, right? As they come, right? Not waste them and squander them, give them back to people, allow ourselves to be blessed so that we can bless other people. But ultimately, if you find yourself in a place that you're not aligned with, if you find yourself in a place where you're going in this circle of realizing you need to make a change, feeling like it's time to make a change, and then having that revelation and not stepping forward, right? And that's ultimately what we're called to do. Is we are at that point in our life when we realize that pivotal moment. Maybe we've come up to a point where, like, what have I been doing the last 10 years, 5 years, the last year of my life? What have I been doing? And we hit that crossroads, that divergence where now it's time to step. It's kind of that point where you either take a step and you follow what you know you should be following. You follow what you feel called to do. You feel like there's a time for you to make an impact in people's lives. You feel like there's a time for you to step into your talents and invest your time into things that you want to reap, right? Or you can stay stuck forever. It's never too late, right? Some people have that divergence and that critical thought at different points in their lives, but if you're at that point or you want to make a change and you don't know what to do, it's time to start investing in yourself, in where you're spending your time and your talents, figuring out, what do you do better than anybody else? What are your talents? What are your gifts? What do you love to do? Where do you feel at peace? Where do you feel fulfilled? How do you want to invest back into people, right? And change lives or do something bigger than yourself in some way? All of those things align to figure out what your purpose is. And when you decide that you're no longer going to continue to do the same thing that you've always done, because you're going to get the same thing you've always gotten, that's when it's that critical time to now step, right? And stop going in circles where suddenly you have a revelation, you have a thought, or you feel called to make a change, and then you just stay and you stay out of fear or unknown. Things will work out. Things will always work out. I think so many times we have the question of, well, what happens if something doesn't work out? What happens if I take this step and it doesn't work out? What happens if it does? Right? And it's funny how when you take the commitment to follow what you've been called to follow and your dreams and what you feel called to pursue, and you start aligning yourself there, everything starts to fall into place. Other people start to get behind you. Other people start to invest in you. Other people believe in you. You start getting this reassurance and this confidence in yourself and from others. And suddenly doors start to open. And people that are standing in front of those doors move out of the way and they open as well. And things start pouring into you when you start pursuing the things that you're supposed to pursue, right? When you start following your God-given calling. And finding that can be hard, right? But if you're somebody who has been stuck in this same just routine over and over again, I'm telling you that it's time to realize where you're sowing in your life. Because even saying no, sowing no into your life a lot more is going to give you the opportunity to say yes to the things that truly matter, the things that are going to bring you joy, bring you peace. And oftentimes we pursue life and we think more is the answer. But in reality, it's usually less, right? It isn't more money, more responsibility, it's usually less responsibility, right? You want more freedom. You want more peace. Usually it's comes from getting rid of some things in your life that are bogging you down, getting organized and getting rid of some clutter, right? In and around your life, things that just don't make sense, right? Giving yourself some peace, some freedom. And if I can tell you one thing that I've learned is that you really do want to take the time that you need when you need it, right? Take the time to decompress, take the time to take a vacation, take the time to get away, like invest in your peace of mind, invest in your peace. Maybe it's something that you just love doing, right? I can tell you the things that give me the most peace are just going out in the garage and working on the truck for a while, right? Or going on a hike. Take time to invest those in your life, because if you get so focused and tunnel visioned on the thing that you're doing every single day, whether it brings you joy or not, right? Eventually you're not going to have the peace for yourself. And so take care of your mental health, take care of yourself, invest the time in the things that you love doing that bring you joy, that bring you peace, that kind of bring some clarity to your mind and get rid of some of the clutter. And ultimately you'll find your way. But that's my story. That's how I wound up back here. That's why I took the time that I needed to live life, to get organized, to get mentally straight, to figure out what it is that I truly wanted in life, and then take the leap. Right, take the leap and realize that I'm tired of living the same way that I've lived, and I want to start investing my time into things that matter. I want to start changing lives and impacting people and helping people. And you can do that yourself. You can do that in whatever way it looks like, whatever it is that you want to pursue in your life, that's going to bring you joy and bring you peace and happiness and fulfillment. Right, fulfillment is a big one. Make that change. Even if you found your identity in your work, right, doesn't mean that you can't find a new identity. Doesn't mean that you can't change, that you can't grow, that you can't reinvent yourself, because you absolutely can. I've been doing that over the last year or two, honestly, is kind of reinventing myself. You kind of hit a point where things change and you realize that, you know, maybe what you were once pursuing or what you once thought was the right path necessarily wasn't, right? You were a little off base. It's okay. Still get back on track. Um, the hard part is doing nothing, realizing that you need to make a change and never doing anything, is how you wind up down the road 30 years, living every day, doing something that you hate and sewing a lot of things back into your life that you're not happy of. And I think in that pivotal point, I realized, am I the kind of husband that I want to be? Am I the kind of father that I want to be if my wife got pregnant today, right? Or if I suddenly had kids? Um, and I realized that I was somebody that didn't have the mental bandwidth and the space and I was just having things of anger and resentment and things that I just didn't want in my life anymore. And that was a big reason why I made this change was, um, I realized that, what kind of an image am I leaving to those people around me that believe in me, that have always believed in me and trusted me, if I'm a hypocrite, if I'm not doing the things that I would tell other people to do, right? If somebody came to me and they said, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. If I couldn't follow my own advice, right, then clearly I need to start making a change. And that's exactly what I did. So here I am, back into the seat in the business that I love, helping, consulting people, giving guidance and advice, really bringing more news and information and opening the conversation in the world about these tough topics, right? These things about alternative health and wellness and detox and longevity. And we're going to talk about some really cool things on this podcast, right? We're going to talk about things that I think a lot of people are interested in, right? When we talk about blood work and peptides are a big thing right now, stem cells, all these really cool things. I think there'll be some really awesome episodes that'll be coming out. And really my plan on this podcast is to talk more about the things that really matter. The things for people that are really struggling, right? Like there are real people out in this world that are dealing with depression and anxiety and PTSD and thoughts of suicide every single day, that need confidence. And if you are one of those people, you are not alone. There are so many of us out there that have dealt with all of these things. And if you ever need anybody, myself, I'm here. So please feel free to reach out. There's people around you that love you, that care about you. don't think that you're alone, right? And, you know, love yourself, love yourself. And I think a lot of the other really important topics that we'll be touching on too are, how do we support a lot of these people in these groups, and bringing awareness to how do we give back. One of the things that I'll be doing is putting together a foundation that I'll be growing with a lot of other individuals, hopefully, to give back, to be a voice, and to be a resource to those that truly need it in several different facets. So there's a lot of things that are coming. There's a lot of things that are on the way. And so stay tuned. There's definitely a lot on the horizon for all of us. And I just want to thank you all. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all for tuning into this, for listening to this. Um, if there's a last word of advice, is take the step. It'll be okay. Pursue your dreams. Don't live a life of regret, right? If you're in a situation where it's time for you to make a choice, choose the one that's going to serve you and those around you, and make a difference and bring you fulfillment, right? Make a difference in your life or in others. So have some faith, trust yourself. And again, thank you all from the bottom of my heart for listening. And see you all in the next podcast. Thanks so much. Thank you for tuning into the Vitalis Podcast. If you found value in today's episode, we would be so grateful if you'd leave a rating and a review. It truly helps us grow. And share this episode with friends and family who are also on a journey towards deeper health and truth. To stay up to date on weekly episodes, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and follow us on Instagram at the Vitalis Podcast. Please remember, the content shared on this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It's not a substitute for personalized medical or mental health advice, nor does it establish a provider-patient relationship. Always consult with your physician or qualified healthcare professional before making changes to your health protocols.